as you may have guessed by now, the people are unhappy, and so His Majesty went and stuck his hand so far up the media puppets' asses and got them out talking in his favor.
Hey, you shut your face! If we want to hear you talk, I will shove my arm up your ass and work your mouth like a puppet. You hear me? You hear me? Caspar!
Yeah. Peace out, bitches.
So let's kick this chapter off with the good old ass kisser whose lips have left a mark on so many ass cheeks. The man, the myth, the legend, Media Man Amr Adib.
Media. Kisses ass whenever he...
The voice of chaos gets louder each day, and the people who have a vengeance against the system are becoming many. We are really in trouble. Be gentle with Egypt because things can't take anymore. Don't overturn the boat and sink it because there's an incoming economic flood. Neither of the election parties is agreeing to exchange. Let's dissect these points now, shall we? The voice of chaos is indeed coming out, but that is not necessarily a bad thing. This chaos here refers to revolution. As for people with a vengeance growing in number, have you maybe thought to stop hurting so many people so much? As far as I know, nobody just wakes up and decides to be Batman.
Just woke up in a fucking steaming mood, yeah? I'm vengeance.
It's always caused by something. Secondly, tell that to the system, not us. We ain't the ones hurting Egypt. Thirdly, the boat turning over is again a euphemism for revolution, and it's better than continuing to sail down the river Styx, if you ask me. And the economic flood is your own ass fault to begin with, not ours. As for the fourth point, I don't even fucking know what he wants to say here. The Union of Fine Artists implores President to run for a new term. Two things. First, for fine artists, you photoshopped his face like a goddamn Oppo beauty filter. Secondly, this comment from a member of the union, and I, a General Assembly member and a member of the Board of Directors at the union, assure you that the union now has no Board of Directors and it is restricted to deal with all bank accounts belonging to it, and the board is in a constant state of trial with the lady from the statement above, and her General Assembly never meets up for more than 4 years now. So how did she know that all artists implore? I personally don't implore anyone to do anything. Just goes to show that most unions here are a joke, much to the joy of the government, of course. Another union sucking dick, the Veterinaries Union, announces its support for this campaign for a new term. When all that didn't work, they were like, let's see if we can maybe tickle their extremism a little. Minister of Endowments.
Endowment. Both British and American English pronunciations are similar, so it's fairly easy.
We opened in President Sisi's reign 10,553 mosques. I have no clue if that number is accurate, but regardless, maybe take 500, just 500 off of that number and use the resources for something else. Something that we are lacking, because let me tell you, we do not have any shortage of mosques. There's one on every street, literally. Maybe something like, schools, hospitals, proper public transport, colleges. Why is the government even funding religious institutions? Tax the church, yo! Or well, tax the mosque, in this case. There are 51 parties demanding the president runs again. I don't even think we have parties anymore, let alone that many. Let even a loner that support His Majesty. That's not enough, we should press him harder, maybe he'll agree.
Out of my way. People have to be told.
The elections are cancelled due to Ligma.
What the hell is Ligma?
Ligma balls.
To close, a bold statement from Mustafa El-Fi'i, a political thinker, whatever that means, goes as follows. I want anyone running for elections to tell me and philosophize before me about what he'll do about the Renaissance Dam. I haven't found anyone with a chance to compete with the until now. Right, the Renaissance Dam issue that he's put us in the first place. Let's talk about that now that you mention it. First things first, Amr Adib did his presidential butt polishing ritual on time as usual. What Ethiopia did with us is years of sliminess, trickery, and intransigence. I hate this word. Which is not true. His Majesty was there and signed the fucking documents. Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia signed a document declaring the principles of the Renaissance Dam. He solved it. The president signs an agreement that guarantees Egypt's water rights, and the Ethiopian prime minister says, we won't harm the Egyptian people. Except they will. The agreement was signed without parliament agreement and likely without even being read, as discussed in a previous chapter. To trace this from the source, procedures were dragging along or completely at a halt with the dam.
Keep in mind this shit was under Morsi, former worst Egyptian president ever and current favorite scarecrow of the system. After a grueling diplomatic battle, Egypt has succeeded in getting the decision out of Europe. Russia, and China to stop funding the Ethiopian dam that, if completed, would affect 20% of Cairo's share of Nile water. An official decision was issued from the EU, Russia, China, Italy, and the National Bank to stop funding the Renaissance Dam and freeze international loans to Ethiopia valuing at $3.7 billion, among which is a Chinese $1 billion loan. Egyptian diplomatic sources have stated that the announced funding for the dam is $250 million, but the actual scale of construction exceeds $1 billion, confirming that there is a secret funding from countries that aim to cause water poverty in Egypt. Sources have stated that the battle continues diplomatically, legally, and internationally to stop the dam completely and force Ethiopia to adhere to previously agreed upon plans. Sources have stated that international law prohibits any international organization or country from aiding and funding of any project on the river that hurts other countries' rights, whether through loans, grants, or aids, according to the rules of the international law for international rivers. And resources have emphasized that it's imperative for Egypt to continue to pressure Ethiopia, especially considering the possibility of hostile countries moving against Egypt to dissuade the EU and the International Bank of their refusal to fund the dam. Dr. Mohammed Nasruddin Allam, former Water Resources Minister, has stated that the decision to stop the funding of the dam will force Addis Ababa to negotiate once again with Egypt, and he affirms that the decision is natural and should have been made from the beginning of negotiations with Ethiopia.
So you see, the Brotherhood puppet himself stood up to this. The very same thing His Majesty just gave up so readily. This statement is a bunch of vague, fancy political looking words with no real content other than that they're proceeding anyway against agreements. Would have been more helpful to tell us what our government plans to do about it, but I think we both know that the answer is nothing. In which case they technically did tell us. Anyway, as with most of our news, we get it from foreign agencies because our media is a failure by all accounts and by all standards. Funny how a meeting to settle the issue between the three countries is held in a fourth entire country with nothing to do with the river in question in the first place. But the UAE is a major investor in the dam, and so the Emirati role has grown in its support for Ethiopia during recent times, where Abu Dhabi and El Riyadh are the biggest supporters for Addis Ababa through investments, aids, and donations that enable the latter to build and finalize the dam. It has been estimated that the Emirati and Saudi investments combined in Ethiopia value at $8.2 billion. UAE is also buying off African countries, it seems, not just Egypt, in preparation for its villain arc, I suppose. Some goofy looking YouTuber, which I'm aware is ironic coming from me, shut up, said that Egypt would not be affected by the dam at all. This was debunked by Masaddash, which is a news network specializing in debunking fake news. I featured them before on the channel. One day we woke up to find the security directorate in Ismailia burned down. Death of 8 police personnel, among them a lieutenant colonel, in the Ismailia security directorate fire. Unaccounted for, however, are the people in cells and the underground holding. Additionally, videos of the fire when it was still starting show that it started in 3 different locations within the building. And spread way faster than it seemingly should. Which led to suspicions that it was in fact arson. My belief is that there was something or someone in there that they wanted gone without any noise. This theory is backed up by the sparsity of coverage of this news and the fact the government denied any fatalities until proof was forced into light, to which no response from the government came. Later in October, a party was being held in Cairo. The party was called Sync and was organized by a company called Pulse. The party went fine, all things considered, except that after it was done, some Arabians came out and assaulted the kids leaving the party. They beat the shit out of the boys, harassed and sexually assaulted the girls, robbed everyone blind, and shot and killed one guy who was an Uber driver after he tried to defend the girl he was driving.
ازيكم يا شباب عاملين ايه؟ احنا دلوقتي هنتكلم معاكم عن حفلة سينك بتاعت امبارح اللي هي تبع شركة بولس.
اللي بولس المفروض منظمة الدنيا يعني.
احنا اول حاجة رحنا المكان، كنا فاهمين ان هو في زايد، هو مش في زايد.
احنا رحنا زايد طبعا، فخلاص فاهمين ان هو في زايد. طلع ان اللوكيشن الساعة الا تلت من عند زايد في حتة اسمها المنصورية، حتة مقطوعة ما ينفعش تعمل فيها حتى عيد ميلاد.
عبارة عن مدقين وفي النص ترعة، وهي في مزرعة اللي معمول فيها الحفلة. هي مش فيلا، هي مزرعة كده فيها فيلا صغيرة وقدامها جنينة، هي معمول في الجنينة دي الحفلة.
طبعا انت جيت تخش خلاص، انت اتحطيت قدام الامر الواقع.
يعني مش هترجع تاني،
مش هتعرف ترجع،
مش هتعرف ترجع. اصلا كان في اعداد كبيرة جدا قدام الحفلة.
في اصلا طريق لوحده يستحمل العربية اللي انت ماشي بيها بالعكس.
بس هو طريقين، كل طريق يشيل عربية واحدة، واحد رايح واحد جاي.
اللي هو خلاص يعني مش هننفع نرجع ولا نمشي حتى. فخلاص كده يعني حطينا في منظمه في الحته دي. يعني الحته اللوكيشن غلط طبعا تمام، والناس اللي رايحه كلها يعني ولاد ناس تمام، ما يعرفوش الحته دي ولا ينفع يخشوا الحته دي. مفيش مشكله، دخلنا الحفله
قعدنا شويه. طبعا الحفله احنا قعدنا اول نص ساعه تمام. بعد كده بدأ يبقى في خناقات وخناقات كبيره، هم مش عارفين يسيطروا عليها. حصل 3-4 خناقات كده، فقلنا خلاص بقى ناخد بعضنا ونمشي.
جينا بنطلع لقينا على البوابات بيقولوا سكيورتي، بيقولوا
ما تطلعوش
دلوقتي، علشان
هم بيقولوا كده في عربويه بره واقفين، واي حد هيطلع هيتثبت وهيعملوا فيه وهيسووا فيه. فاحنا وقفنا جي 10 دقايق كده، بعد كده قمنا طالعين. طلعنا كانت الدنيا تمام. مره واحده لقينا طبعا هم طلعوا شويه كويسين يعني من الحفله، يعني طلعوا ناس كتير.
طبعا بقى اول لما طلعنا حصلت مجزره بقى يعني.
طبعا
مجزره طبعا
قدام البوابه ناس، يعني ما اعرفش هم دول مين، بس ناس مستنيانا نطلع
بالظبط. هم لقوا طبعا البنات. بص، هي البنات كلها بقت بتصوت. هم بقوا
الشباب بيغتصبوهم من الاخر، بيقلعوهم تحرش، ولو حتى يعني 90% من البنات اتحرش بيهم،
واللي ما اتحرش بيها
سمع كلام
كتير قوي يعني.
في كمان ولد يجي
بيحط نفسه
بيتضرب ويتعور. تمام، هنكمل عادي ومفيش اي مشكله، والحفله جميله وبولس جميله، مفيش مشكله.
نتقلب في الموبايلات والسلاسل
وتطلع تتقلب في كل حاجه.
لا، وهم بيقولوا لنا ايه يعني، هم بيقولوا لنا وانتوا طالعين امنوا على حاجه. يعني مفيش شركه تقول
لي البنات كمان.
طب انت فين تامين ان انت تامني وانا طالع؟
مفيش امان، وحتى هي مش مترخصه حتى.
طبعا يعني نص العربيات اللي راكنه قدام الحفله اتكسرت
واتقلبت. كل حاجه كانت مجزره من الاخر. تمام
بالظبط.
البنات كلهم، احنا مش هنقول بقى على الحاجات اللي حصلت. في ناس بتطلع تفتي كتير، بس احنا نقول اللي احنا شفناه بعينينا. انا لما الاقي معلش واحده ام ست كبيره جايه تاخد بنتها من حفله عادي، مفيش اي مشكله، جايه تاخد بنتها من حفله عربويه، اللي هم بيقولوا عليهم عربويه، بس ازاي دول عربويه؟ عشان دي مش اصول عربويه خالص يعني. مفيش مشكله، جايه تاخد بنتها يا جماعه، يضربوها يوقعوها على الارض ويقلعوها. ايه ده؟
ومشوها من الشارع،
مشوها في الشارع من غير الهدوم. ايه ده؟
وكمان سواق يا جدعان، السواق شاف واحده اللي هو شغال معاها، اللي هو بيقلعوها وبيغتصبوها، فنازل يدافع عليها.
هو طبعا اتهان
واتضرب واتعور، ويطلع عليه اسلحه
وحاجات كتير. هو طبعا كل اللي كان طالع كان بيطلع عليه سلاح
طبعا انت ماشي، انت مش عارف تبص حواليك، انت ماشي بتجري
وبتاخد كلمه، حتى انت مش عارف تتكلم، ان السكان كلها كانت واقفه جنب بعض.
طبعا احنا
كلهم متجمعين واسلحه، ولو يعني لو اتكلمت هتموت حاجه من
احنا مشينا من هنا نص ساعه بالظبط. دخلوا نطوا جوه الحفله. هم طبعا شركه بولس قفلت البوابات على الناس وعلى اصحابنا جوه. طبعا هم بدأوا ينطوا من فوق السور. طبعا بدأوا يضربوا في الناس اللي جوه.
السكان يعني بدأت تنط
بدأت تنط من فوق السور تدخل الحفله. بدأوا يضربوهم. طبعا البنات بقت طالعين بيجروا في الشارع قلعين، البنات مش لابسه،
يقلعوهم جوه.
يعني احنا بس طالعين نتكلم نقول حاجه يعني. احنا دي حفله تمام،
ولا قصدنا نقول ان الحفلات عموما انها كويسه وان احنا نروح،
بس احنا بنتكلم في فكره ايه اللي حصل وشفناه بعينينا.
المكان
حفله ولاد ناس رايحين يتعوروا، وفي ناس اتخطفوا، اهاليهم لسه ما يعرفوش عنهم اي حاجه
لغايه دلوقتي.
يعني
في ناس لغايه دلوقتي، احنا هو بقالنا يوم، في ناس لغايه دلوقتي ما يعرفوش عيالهم فين.
اهاليهم بجد يا جدعان لازم يرفعوا محاضر ويدوروا على اولادهم. الحوار كان صعب الصراحه.
لا يعني فعلا يعني يا بولس انتوا عايشتونا يعني هالوين بجد بقى يعني
كان هورر هاوس كبير شويه.
يعني عيشوا الناس هالوين بجد يعني. بنات عمرهم ما ينسوا يوم زي ده طبعا. بنات رايحين لابسين كوستيمز للهالوين.
وبرضه انت بتتكلم في سن
من 13 مثلا، من 13 ل 19 سنه.
سنه
تمام. الشباب رايحين حفله، بنات لابسين كوستيمز للهالوين. تمام. داخلين يتبسطوا. يحصل فيهم كده يعني. انا رايح حفله عشان اتبسط، يطلع فيها يحصل.
معلش يا جماعه. وطبعا 90% من العربيات اللي كانت بره اتكسرت.
الحمد لله يعني يا جماعه، الناس اللي وصلوا والناس اللي ما وصلوش يعني ربنا معاهم ومع اهاليهم، ومحدش يسكت على الموضوع ده خالص. غير كده يا جماعه، شركه بولس لو كملت كده هي فعلا
هي ما ينفعش تكمل من دلوقتي اساسا
يعني بجد.
بس هو احنا الحمد لله احنا عرفنا نوصل لعربياتنا اصلا يعني.
طبعا هو يعني ولا مكان تركن فيه اساسا.
احنا لما عرفنا نوصل لعربياتنا تلاقي الناس بتطلع على عربياتنا وتقعد تكسر فيها،
تكسر في العربيات. طب وليه؟ احنا ايه في غابه يعني؟ غير كده البنات معلش، البنات هم لابسين ده لبسهم، هم لابسين كده. اللي حصل
مش هنتكلم دلوقتي في اللبس صح ولا غلط،
بس احنا بنتكلم في ان يعني اللي حصل ما يرضيش حد، ما يرضيش اي حد ان بنت تبقى رايحه تتبسط يحصل فيها كده. كل ده عشان ايه؟ عشان تامين، عشان انتوا عاملينها في لوكيشن زي الخرا. معلش يعني اللفظ ده، بس انا بتكلم فكره ايه. طب انت يا عم اعمل لي حفله، الناس دي ولاد ناس رايحين يتبسطوا، اعمل لي حفله في لوكيشن حلو. عملتها في اللوكيشن ده، امن ايه يعني؟ إيه احنا ايه؟ دي شركه تحت السلم يعني ولا ايه؟ المفروض شركه بولس دي يعني شركه كبيره يعني. فالصراحه ما ينفعش حد يسكت خالص على الموضوع. ما حدش يسكت على الموضوع، عشان اللي حصل ده مش هيتنسى، ولا البنات هتنسى ولا الولاد اللي اتعوروا وحصل لهم حاجه هينسوا. وادعوا للناس اللي مخطوفين واهاليهم ما يعرفوش عنهم اي حاجه ويرجعوا بالسلامه.
بس احنا حبينا
بس نوصل الفكره
وما بنقولش برضو ان الحفلات صح ولا غلط. بس احنا حبينا ننقل لكم صوره عن اللي حصل امبارح.
The lack of police presence and intervention during it and the absence of any justice following it is disturbing. Another thing that is disturbing about this is the fact that a lot of people actually liked this. Some out of upward contempt, since this is more or less an elites party, and some because this party was on the 10th, I think, of October, which was right after the trouble started with our neighbors northeast. And so people found it tasteless to celebrate at such a time. Something off topic, but I'm watching TikToks from the Sync party and comments from hooligans who are all gloating and cheering what the Arabians did. I'm seriously disgusted to be breathing the same air with these people. People in Egypt are ready to accept any oppression as long as it's on people that are different from them, which is a sad truth. Egyptians are among the most racist, sexist, everythingist people out there and have no concept of empathy. The people blaming the kids of the Sync party and saying they deserve it are the same people who blame girls for their clothes when someone harasses or rapes them. I don't know if I'm more pissed about what happened at the Sync party or the filthy people who are saying, well, they're the ones who were drinking. For disclosure, I can't seem to find any tweets with such gloating anymore, but I have seen them when this was new, and so did these people since they posted about it. Twitter must have taken them down for inciting hate or something. While on the topic of crime and disarray, did you know that he threatened us? Deadass pulled a Pokimane on us and threatened the very people who made him.
Like, if you're a broke boy, just say so.
After all, he came with a coup, and the people were the ones to legitimize his rule. I can give a strip of tramadol and £1,000 to 100,000 people in tough conditions and have them go out for 10 weeks to create a certain state. I can take down a country with £1 billion, meaning with a sum that some people spend on a party.
Go. Do a crime.
This was a genuine, huh? Moment. The kind of news you slap yourself, ask someone to pinch you, and then go ask your crush out on a date afterwards, just to make sure you're not dreaming. It gets even funnier. In the full conference, he said something like, I won't give them £20, prices have gone up nowadays, I'll give them £1,000. Essentially acknowledging the ridiculous inflation that he has caused, while threatening us. The funniest part about all this, to me though, is the fact that his speeches are not live. They get edited and cut down before airing, so if this is what made the cut, what in the fuck did that guy say that was so bad that it got cut out?
Oh no!
A fun, random thing that happened is a military coup in Gabon. Gabon coupers, whatever. President Ali Bongo is accused of stealing the country's money and smuggling money outside. I had never even heard of that country before, truth be told, but the Egyptian government saw it and were like, So, the Ministry of External Affairs said that Egypt is watching the developments in Gabon and calls all involved parties to hold the national interests above all to maintain the security, stability, and safety of the country. You can already see the irony, so I won't keep you waiting for the people's responses. This is one of my absolute favorite sayings in Arabic, and I am truly sorry for anyone who doesn't understand Arabic for missing out on it. It means something along the lines of they have the same problem they're advising about, but in Arabic
Just kicks like a mule with his balls wrapped in duct tape.
we also have Abdel Fattah Bongo, Intisar Bongo, and Mahmoud Bongo. Intisar and Mahmoud being his wife and son, in that order. Don't get it mixed up. President Ali Bongo and his father Omar Bongo ruled Gabon for 65 years. Maybe the people of Gabon should be a little patient and give the President Ali Bongo some time to continue his project. Wink wink. This is of course referencing this very same statement we were told about our own Bongo. Wait, let him cook. How odd, he was smuggling it through Zambia. If you recall, a few months back, a plane of ours was caught with a bunch of smuggled goods on it in Zambia as well, and was tracked and found out to be frequently active in that field of war. You should watch my video on it, honestly, after this. It was truly a surreal situation. A coup advising a coup. Okay, that's Gabon. How is Zambia treating y'all? All involved parties? What? It's the army that turned on the government. There are no parties or anything. And they even say the people authorized him. This is also a parallel to our own situation, where His Majesty's coup was legitimized through the people authorizing him. As a precaution for any potential coups, El Cameron retiring all army generals, Rwanda retiring all troop leaders, major generals, and chief of staff. Turns out, all banana republics took this as a potential warning, not just ours. The National Guard in Gabon takes oath as a president for the transitional phase. I like that they made the National Guard stronger than the army to protect them from a coup, only for the National Guard itself to do the coup. Niger and now Gabon too, which solidifies my belief that this entire continent and region is just cursed with instability, like there's no fucking hope. In their desperation for money, the government is turning their attention to foreigners staying in Egypt. The Prime Minister issues a decision about the regulations of residence fee collection from foreigners in dollars or its equivalent. As far as I know, you already had to pay for a residence permit to stay here legally, so this has to be some new bullshit legislation to mask a money grab. And I don't just say this because I know our government too well and don't trust them.
We're with the government, for goodness sake.
But also because of how vague and nonsensical it is. The Prime Minister issues a decision about foreigners staying in Egypt illegally, urging them to clear the situation up with the condition of having an Egyptian host, and this is within 3 months in exchange for payment of administration fees of what equates to $1,000 to be deposited in the designated account. Are there any details about this? Is there legal text explaining what clearing their situation means and what are the situations that are considered illegal? Are there any details? According to the rules, procedures, and regulations that the Ministry of Internal Affairs determines. That is the only detail in that decision. So there you have it. We want you to come clear up your situation that may or may not be illegal based on criteria we decide that we're not going to tell you. And we need you to have a host now for some reason, copying the Gulf Kafil system I see. Oh, and you also have to pay $1,000 because reasons. It blows me away how out of touch these people are. Like, are you aware your country is not even that great as a permanent residency spot to begin with? Like, the only logical reason for someone to leave their first world country and come here is either to do something illegal they can't do there, or to live like a king or queen in retirement, because the pensions and hard currency make up a fortune here. And indeed, almost all permanent foreign residents here were old people, and now you're making it expensive, losing the only allure you had. Great job. Additionally, they are now obligated to present proof that all their money exchanges were done through the government and not the black market.
Hey, Mac.
Whoa!
Exchange currency?
Why, you ask? Because they want their cut. And why would anyone risk dealing with the black market? Because if you sell your dollars in the black market at the time of filming, you're getting around 50 Egyptian pounds per each of your dollars. Whereas if you do it through the government, you only get 31. And also, the black market is very ironically less of a security risk now, since the government sets their sights on anyone who has hard currency. Whereas the alternative wants absolutely nothing to do with you once the transaction is over. Like, give, take, see you never. Another money grab they came up with is citizenship by investment. The Egyptian Board of Ministers agrees to grant citizenship to foreigners in exchange for investing in real estate a sum no less than $300,000. Additionally, granting citizenship to foreigners if they froze a bank deposit of $500,000 for 3 years without interest, which they will get back after the period ends in Egyptian pounds. The first term is fair game in my opinion, a little steep for a citizenship that isn't all that useful.
Whoa! This is worthless.
It's less than worthless, my boy.
But the principle itself is fair. The second part, however, like, you have to be a caveman to fall for it. First, ain't no way this shit is worth $500,000. I would pay that sum just to get the fuck out of here. Secondly, the fact you basically gave up this sum for 3 years, and when you get it back, you get it in Egyptian with no interest. Like, even if Egyptian pounds weren't crashing faster than Flight 175 did, natural inflation rates would still guarantee you end up at a loss, since you'll be getting it back based on the current exchange rate, not that in 3 years, which is not stated here, obviously. Third, there are no guarantees you'll even get your money back. Like, bro, shit gets lost here all the time, and you think they'll remember to give you back that much money 3 years from now? I doubt it. I mean, this isn't the first deposit scam they've done within recent times. Speaking of foreigners, Egypt set some constraints on Canadians' entry to Egypt. The statement says it's in reciprocation, as the Canadian state denies Egyptian citizens entry. The real reason is that one of his sons got his visa to Canada denied, allegedly for being part of an illegitimate regime, so daddy decided to stand up for his son and ban them back, which ended up not bothering the Canadian state one bit whatsoever, and only deterred Canadian tourists from coming here, which benefited us when they did, as well as making life harder for Egyptians living in Canada, of which there are many. هدف رائع. ولكن في مرمانا. There have been calls to boycott the election, as usual. Parties and public figures call for boycotting the upcoming elections. We must boycott the elections. Verdict. In response to the mockery, on election day, we don't leave home even to get cigarettes. Leave the roads, bridges, and booths empty for them as a response to the mockery. Expose them and preserve yourselves no matter how much they try to scare you with boycott fines. I personally think this will not change anything. Go, don't go, it'll get faked anyway. We did boycott the last elections. What happened? I think boycott is a blind slogan like many others that are deeply rooted in the country, and that it's a win for tyrants who are terrified of citizens coming out together in the streets and of them continuing to have hope to force change. The world respects the strong, it won't respect a weak, passive-aggressive people. Election day is a work day and vacations are banned on it by a ministerial decree a week prior to guarantee that workers are out on the streets. Then they fill the boxes as they want. If you're wondering why the presence of people on the street matters that much, it's because the system can simply lie and say these people who were out going about their lives as normal on that day were actually voting. But if there's nobody on the streets at all that day, it'll deny them that and make it clear that the voting booths were empty. Therefore, the results they spoof will have to be fake. Which is the whole point of even holding elections. It's a role play to make it look like we chose him again in front of the international society. It was never about our own choice or opinions. The government is not even talking to us with these elections. Something I often say is that it's really easy to just get swallowed up in prison here and never see the light of day, especially as a nobody. One such case is this one here. This is a post from 2019. Sumaya Maher Ahmad Hazima, 27 years old, married, Bachelor of Science from Azhar University, worked as a chemist in an analysis lab, was arrested by security forces from her father's home in the Manhoor city on 17/10/2017, was kept hidden by force for almost a year, accused in case number 955/2017 by higher state security for joining a restricted group, was transferred to Al Anatar prison for women with all visits being prohibited. I'm uncertain why she was taken seemingly at random. If you know anything about Egypt, you know that joining a terrorist, suspicious, restricted, or whatever else organization is actually code for fuck you. It's the go-to to make someone go away when they have no legit reason to do so. Now fast forward to 2023, Sumaya is still locked up. Yesterday was the second hearing for the defense in Sumaya Maher's case. The hearing was postponed 2.5 months for difficulty in the defendant's attendance. Difficulty to attend from Badr prison to Badr court, within Badr Rehabilitation Center, aka difficulty to move them from one gate to another. On the 17th of October, she will officially reach 6 years in pre-trial lockup. 6 years in pre-trial lockup. Don't call for the court to expedite the judgment and consider people's lives that are wasting away. Keep in mind that this person is, to my knowledge anyway, a nobody. They have no reason to be purposely holding her that long, and I doubt they are. The process is just that painfully sloppy and slow on non-pressing issues. As for considering people's lives going to waste, well, I mean, look at me. Look at any of us. This is a human incinerator where hope, freedom, and passion go to die. Mobile companies in the entire galaxy. You pay 5 and get 5 gigabytes. Mobile companies in Egypt. You will charge with 117, but you will pay 150 to get 66 pounds worth of credit that give you 45 units you can use to call anyone between 4 and 5 a.m. and 12 gigabytes you can use to open 3 certain websites, which we won't tell you. This is a satirical hyperbole of the bullshit reality. Before, you just paid a certain amount and got it in phone credit, 1-to-1. Until around 4 years ago, I think, give or take a year maybe. I don't fucking know, man. This whole era has been a shitty blur. Point is that this started under His Majesty's rule. Now you pay around 30% extra on any amount you charge, which goes entirely to the government. The companies don't get a penny from it and can't do shit about it. And you also have a £0.5 deducted from your phone credit monthly in what is called a stamp. It's not even really a tax, it's literally just a bit of money that goes from you to the government for no particular reason. And you might be thinking like, 51 piasters, that's not that big of a deal. And yeah, it's not. But when you get one from every single SIM card in the country, you're getting well over £60 million monthly for literally nothing, and you can guess where it all goes, like, obviously. And this stamp thing gets deducted the very second credit hits your SIM. So if you need to, let's say, charge £10 of credit for your monthly plan, you pay 13 and you get 9.49 because of the fucking stamp, so you have to charge a little extra just to account for being robbed by the government. Literally. While on the topic of phones, since everyone is broke as fuck and imports are doing worse than the average Egyptian marriage after the first year, this anomaly happened some time ago. Some electronics store was offering you the chance to hold and take a picture with the iPhone 15 Pro Max for just £5. If you can't buy it, come hold it and take a photo with it on Friday at 6 PM. A photo is £5, only for a limited time. Unless you're a lifestyle influencer or one of those cringe people who post 10 stories a day, this offer is pointless. I personally would be scared to even hold something that expensive unless I own it. Like, this shit costs like, what, 50,000 Egyptian pounds? But respect to the store for making use of the present misery however they can. Like, you gotta work with what you got, man. I can't even be mad at them, honestly. It's not like it's their fault things are this way. I'm sure that, like any store, they would much prefer that people be able to actually afford the things so they could sell the things and then be able to get even more things from outside to sell. But, you know, a man can dream. Speaking of expensive shit, a Nile cruise sank near El Minya. Well, not exactly sank, because it managed to get to a shallow spot in time. The Egyptian officials said that the cruise didn't receive any guests, Egyptian or foreign, lately, and was recently in a workshop in Helwan, south of Cairo, to undergo the upgrades, renovation, and maintenance necessary to allow it to operate during the winter season, assuring that after the work was finished, the cruise management got a permit to pass through Cairo to Luxor to anchor there, then undergo the necessary examinations by the Ministry of Tourism to renew its license, in preparation for operation starting in October. The official revealed the details of the incident, saying that the cruise had a collision where it was passing under one of the bridges in El Minya Governorate and hit it, which caused a crack in the hull and leakage into the first deck, clarifying that the captain moved the vessel and anchored it near land to not block traffic in the river, and so the crew members could get off. He added that the prosecution has started an investigation in the accident and it has been arranged with the company that owns the cruise to take the necessary procedures about the issue. 3 weeks prior, one of the tourist Nile cruises sank in the Nile near Luxor, south of the country, and the incident led to the death of 2 workers. Here is footage from the second ship sinking.
اصحى المركب بتتقلب اصحى المركب بتتقلب اصحى اي استر يا رب استر يا رب استر يا رب استر يا رب لا خلاص راعي نفسه راعي نفسه الحمد لله بدوس اكسر قزاز الناس نطت من المركب يا جدعان اتبعجوا
ما أغلبوا.
يا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله. الحق تعالى تعالى.
To end, someone tweeted an interesting analogy. The sinking of the ship in Luxor yesterday, the scene with the sleeping man as the ship is sinking, is exactly like the oblivious Egyptian people in the boat that is Egypt. Despite the divine signs and warnings to save ourselves and unite, we will not wake up from the slumber of consciences until the boat has already sunk. You know, divine rambling aside, I can't help but agree. The end is nigh, my friends. To close, here are some random screenshots I found lying around. I know a woman who got divorced in May and is still going through the pension procedures. 2 days ago, she went to them and they told her she'll get it starting from October. So she asked if she'll get the accumulated sum, you know, since she started the procedures 5 months prior. And they told her no, she'll only get 1 month starting from October. When did the pension laws change? And is this true? And yes, indeed they have. I mean, domestic and family courts were never Egypt's judicial system's biggest strength, from first-hand experience. This is just a drop in the sea, drop in the sewer. Also, this pension in question is her father's, not her own. Unmarried women here are entitled to a part of their father's pension, even after his passing. Before, each receiver would get a certain share, but now a fixed sum is split among all of them. So essentially, this woman getting into the pension will hurt her sisters. They said she'll get the quarter and they'll deduct a big part from her sister's share, and a lot of stuff that she didn't understand. Next up, someone asked why we don't have a vice president. Which is a good question, because they are bad luck for those who appoint them. Nasser appointed El Sadat and died. El Sadat appointed Mubarak and died. Mubarak appointed Suleiman and got overthrown. Which is actually an interesting pattern. Homie here gives a more serious response. It's hard to find a vice that is accepted by all the administration higher-ups who are at each other's throat. The vice will want the throne and get rid of him. You can't trust them. The end of the president's time on the throne means the beginning of a chaos and infighting phase for rulership, and this is a scarecrow they must keep to keep the option to pass it down to Huda. Up next is an example why I have trust issues. Speaking of COVID, someone I know told me that one time he was in a microbus heading to some city in a province, and the driver stopped at a checkpoint, so he opened the glove box, pulled out masks and handed them to everyone, and after the checkpoint he took them back and put them in the glove box. The same thing has been happening with seatbelts way before COVID, and will continue to happen for as long as this country exists, probably.
It will not be long.
I have never seen a bus driver that has his seatbelt on, and a lot of them even have it buckled but behind them, so that when they spot a cop or a checkpoint they can just yoink it around their chest to look like they have it on, and then put it back afterwards. The cops are happy because it looks like we are following rules, even if they know we aren't, and the drivers are happy because seatbelts are generally not in our culture here, like we just die like men. And now for a speed round of rage and frustration. Humiliation. Feeling humiliated is the only thing that I consistently feel in this country. Today I am angry, Egypt. Angry that I am deprived of my brother and that my daughter still hasn't met him. Angry that we as a family are scattered, each in a different spot and can't get together. Angry at the one who destroyed my relationship with my country and forced me to leave it so I can be okay and stop the antidepressants and get pregnant without worrying. This is someone living abroad, missing her family, who are maybe still stuck here. I can't relate to this yet, but I imagine I would if I ever do get the fuck out of here, that is. And now, a positive message to balance this out. Although things look bleak, despair is prevalent, and hope is lost,
In the wake of a nightmare, things look bleak, and you can't figure it out.
there is a feeling of nearing relief. The logic of things and its development is the main motive behind this feeling. Overnight, nations can change, and what is happening in Africa is proof. This is in reference to the coups and shit. Like, I kinda agree that things have to end sooner or later. Probably sooner at this rate. But what I'm concerned about is what comes after. And then again, even if it is good, it doesn't make the current extreme survival state we're in any less painful. You know, like, there comes a point where you no longer care if there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You're just tired of walking, and you're sick of the fucking tunnel. But do keep your fingers crossed for us, will ya? Last, and probably least, here is a professor of psychology who is definitely neither mentally challenged nor hired by the system, telling you that broke people are happier than rich people. Literally, he says broke. Now, he doesn't say poor, it says broke. And, well, since I'm broke, therefore happy, if you hate me and want to make me miserable, you can donate to me through the link in the description. It goes a long way in making me sad and crying myself to sleep every day. Other than that, take care, homies, and I'll see you soon.